Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Carruth Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1995 action film titled Die Hard with a Vengeance. Now, Die Hard with a Vengeance is the third installment of the Die Hard series. It sees the return of John McTiernan as the director. He directed the first movie. But then he stepped down in the second one, was replaced by Rennie Harlin. But here he's back, so that's a good sign. It is also produced by John McTiernan and Michael Tadros. The script was done by Jonathan Hensley, and it is based on the characters from I guess a previous script called Simon Says. Uh, the characters were by Jonathan Hensley, and it was written by somebody by the name of Roderick Thorpe. The score was done by Michael Kamen, the cinematography by Peter Menzies, and it was edited by John Wright. And the stars of the movie are, let's see, Bruce Willis, Samuel L. Jackson, Jeremy Irons, Graham Greene, Colleen Camp, Larry Brigman, and Sam Phillips. Okay, now let me tell you something. I really, really, truly enjoyed this movie. It was one of the great additions to the Die Hard series, and I really want to say that I had a spectacular time of watching this movie 100%. It's kind of strange that, back in the 1960s and 1970s, in an action film, the audience would get their adrenaline rush just by, one exciting, one dynamic stunt. And people would just leave the theater with a smile of satisfaction. But then by the 80s and 90s, and maybe even well into our modern times, the action stunts and explosives are just total non-stop. And you will eventually looking for an aspirin to cure your migraines. But even though the action and the stunt work that we see in a lot of movies since the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, the 2K10s, it is just total non-stop. And in the end, we still somehow want to see more. So much so that you just want to reach into your medicine cabinet and grab an aspirin because the adrenaline rush might be at times overbearing and it might cause your brain to flatulate. This movie simplifies that. It symbolizes that. The action is just nonstop, explosives everywhere. The pacing of this movie is just so incredible. Is that I think that it actually stands out a little bit more than the other previous two Die Hard movies. And what also stands out from this movie is that it is actually a almost like a buddy comedy. It kind of feels like those buddy comedies that we have seen in the 80s, from Running Scared to Tango and Cash to the Lethal Weapon movies and so on. This movie truly feels like a buddy movie, a buddy cop film, even though uh, Samuel L. Jackson's character is not a cop by profession. And in case people didn't know, this movie was actually originally was supposed to be a script for a potential Lethal Weapon movie. I mean, if the production company, I don't remember who it was, they actually wanted to send the script to Joel Silver and Silver was going to mold it and make it into a Lethal Weapon movie. And I could see it because I could see a lot of Lethal Weapon behind this movie. But Bruce Willis said, no, we're just going to go ahead. We're going to make it a Die Hard movie with the comical elements that you would see in a Lethal Weapon movie. And, we'll make it a buddy cop movie, even though Bruce Willis and Samuel L. Jackson are not necessarily two cops. Samuel L. Jackson's character is an electrician who also uh, runs a shop. But still, it was fun to watch. I mean, there was, of course, the jabs within each other, and there was a lot of dark humor, just like you would see in a Lethal Weapon movie. This third installment to the Die Hard series stars Bruce Willis. He's once again returning to the scene of the crime as John McClane, who's recently been suspended from the New York police force. We can tell from a scene where the chief shoves his badge across the desk, thinking that McClane is back on the prowl. Now, there was some unknown reasons as to why he was suspended, but he was called back after the opening scene, which literally starts out with a bang. A department store explodes, and it killed several people. So then the NYPD gets a phone call from some mysterious guy speaking with a German accent, and he threatens that he's gonna ignite more bombs unless John McClane is back. And he says the only reason why he's back is because he wants to play a game of Simon Says, but not as a fun kiddies game. If McClane can solve some riddles and do what he's told, he will not release any bombs. But if John McClane screws up in any way, shape, or form, another bomb will blow up. So New York City is under a really, really deep, dark threat of becoming a bomb saturated city. And he acknowledged this analogy. People opened up with a subtle chuckle from the action fans. I guess they like a little humor to go with the wild ride that's coming to them. I don't know, I guess maybe some fans thought it was, funny to see a drunken, inebriated individual who's really not in a good mood for games, but is back on the force to hopefully put an end to this guy's threat of blowing up the entire island of Manhattan. So, after the very authentic looking explosion at a department store in the greater Manhattan area, McClane gets a mysterious call from an evil bomber who goes by the name of Simon, played by Jeremy Irons, who lures McClane to wear a placard around his body in the middle of Harlem which uttered a racial hatred towards African Americans. The sign said, "I hate N word." I'm not going to say it because I was never raised to be that way. I can throw all the fucks and the shits in the world, but no racism is on my channel. I do have to set limits to myself, but he wears a sign that says these words, and of course, this is much to the chagrin of local um, thugs who would love nothing more than to get a piece of this drunken racist wearing a sandwich sign around his body with those words written there. So then this is where um, McClane gets some assistance from a Harlem store owner by the name of Zeus Carver, played by Samuel L. Jackson, who is now caught in this sickening mind games by this dastardly Simon. And, Zeus Carver, he's not a licensed cop. He does not carry a gun. But also at the same time, he also has a dislike for Caucasian Americans, particularly cops. He never wanted to be involved in this danger, but, he's still, a guy who we can sympathize with, even though he himself is also a racist. But we kind of understand his side of the story as to why he became this way, not just because he was born that way, but it was because of a bad experience he had. So now he's reluctantly caught in this web of mind games and bomb threats by this evil madman who's on the phone, who's got a German accent, and they need to put a stop to this man before Manhattan becomes in rubble. The entire city of Manhattan. As simple as can be, the film is not dependent on acting or method. Not to say that the acting was bad or the method was bad, it just does not really depend entirely on the acting or the methodical ways to get through. There's a lot of surrealism in this movie, and the action is what really counts the most. The film relies most heavily on stunts, explosives, and in your face action to make you lose your mind. Simon's whereabouts seem to be omnipresent as McClane and Zeus are roaming all over Manhattan on one deadly mission after another, even going as far as to bomb a cab across Central Park. The whole Manhattan Island seems to be infested with bombs, which also includes a subway and even a school. But Simon's reason for his madness is not just alone on this. I mean, he has a personal vendetta against McClane, and it's also that personal vendetta is also used as another deeper, darker source of evil as to why he's working on this kind of behalf. It just so happens that he is the brother of Hans Gruber, who was, of course, played by the late Alan Rickman, who was killed in the first Die Hard movie after John McClane pushed him off a building and he plunged to his death. But there's more to his death, more to his evil deeds. It just so happens that at the foreign exchange building, there happens to be gold bars that could be worth up to millions, maybe even close to billions of dollars. And so then he's sending in all these dump trucks all the way from Canada to come over here to collect. A lot of gold bars there. Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. And he's not alone. He comes equipped with a personal army of henchmen, and his vengeance on John for the death of his brother from the first Die Hard movie was just a cover up to his even more dastardly schemes and his more dastardly motives as to why he is the way he is. Willis and Jackson shows some great reluctant chemistry with, even though most of their dialogue was saturated with racial undertones, neither individual has a racial agenda personally, but as time goes on, they become closer and closer to being friends with each other, and they decide that, and then in the end of the movie they become friends. But it takes a very, very long time, and even though the build up to their friendship can be a little bit laboring, at least it's good that they decide to work together to put a stop to this guy and to save Manhattan from becoming a bomb infested city. Jackson's use of clever observations and problem solving is the perfect foil to McClane's rather more manic, live life in danger attitude. Near the end of the chaos, we're all in awe when the bomb squad members become overwhelmed, when a super machine is revealed that could cause a devastating impact that could cause terror all over Manhattan, and the time is ticking fast. There's also the trivializing question which wire to cut. Simon's plans seem to be pure genius, though it's hard to know how the trucks came to the scenes from Canada. Where did he get all these dump trucks from? Jeremy Irons is another long list of villains who are of British extraction. He joins the faction with Alan Rickman, Tim Roth, Gary Oldman, and Sir Anthony Hopkins, and his rich calculating voice as the villainy is just something that we all love to detest. We just purely love to hate this guy. But he's got a smooth delivery in lines. His villainous German accent might sound cliche, and I don't think I want this to be taken as an offense. But, he has this rich, meticulous voice that in some areas he might get under your skin, but at the same time he succeeds in trying to keep it from being subtle, not an over the top German accent, and at the same time, he's got this great voice in dialogue. It's just really, really good. Sure, the guy is evil. No question about it. There's not a single ounce of heart in his body. But he makes it that way. He makes his character this way. And it just is really effective. Not cliche, which is good. But the acting is overall very secondary, as we didn't come to see Shakespeare, we didn't come to see any kind of grandeur performances, even though the acting is very good. No, we came to see our heroes defy death-laden assignments, and the excitement will truly keep you in stitches. We are here to see two men slide from a bridge cable onto a nearby ship. We want to see vehicles topple over like they were Tonka toys. The movie is a kid's toy car collection come to life. And in the end, it just delivers what it promises with a vengeance. Now, before I give my ratings, there is a side note that I want to point out. On an afterthought, this film was actually released 1 month after a real-life bombing that took place in 1995. It was the infamous Oklahoma City bombing, which killed several civilians, mostly young school children. So as an act of humanity, Willis actually refused to make references of this real tragedy in comparison to what we witnessed in the movie. And so for that, I truly respect Bruce Willis even more after the closing credits. This was a truly great movie. It's not the best in the series, but it was good to see um, John McTiernan back. I mean, this is nothing against Rennie Harlin. He did a pretty good job in Die Hard 2. It's not the best one. Die Hard 1, the first Die Hard movie, will always be the best of the series. But Die Hard with a Vengeance is still a great addition to the Die Hard franchise. And for that, if I was to give it a scale out of 10, I would give Die Hard with a Vengeance a 7.5. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Rudd Writer saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.